many times our beliefs are, or even our thoughts of ourselves are lies. Ever thought you're sometimes going through the motions? Gary and I have both been there, and that's why we created the East-West Coaching Podcast.
Welcome to Anna and Gary's East-West Coaching.
I'm Anna, and joining me is Gary. We are here to chat about life, love, and everything in between. Whether you're feeling stuck, frustrated, or just looking for a little more spark in your life, we got you covered. Let's dive in.
The last time we talked about who we are, or we started to talk about who we are. And we kind of went down the rabbit hole of saying, well, we're not quite sure really, because different times we act different ways. And we talked about the labels we give ourselves, and why that's important, or why that might be a problem. So when you think about the word label, what do you think about?
It's like we were saying last time, I'm Italian, I am this, I am that. But I think it's not convenient when you give yourself a negative label. Maybe, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not the type of person who can run a business, or stuff like that.
So what if that's true though, Anna? So what if you're really not smart? And what if you're not the kind of person who can run a business? Is that a problem?
I don't believe that, because I think everyone can learn and change the old ways in which they were. So it might be, there might be a little truth in there when you say that, because first of all, you believe it, so for yourself is a truth. But at the same time, it's like sometimes just saying that stops you straight away. So maybe you don't even try. You don't even try to change things or become smarter or learn about having a business or opening a business. You think, no, that's just not for me. I'm not able to. For example, when I was little, all through, let's say a couple of years ago, I grew up with the thought that I could not draw or paint or do anything like that, because I remain to my school days when, I used to draw a human being like a stick sort of thing. So I never even tried. I thought, I don't really like drawing anyway, and it's just not for me. Because if I have never been good at that throughout my childhood, then I'm not good at it. But then in the last couple of years, I thought, well, let's try and see if that belief is really true. What if I tried and I tried to learn? And I've discovered that just by switching that mindset and how can I say, expanding or trying, Well, actually, when I want to, I can draw. I'm not an artist, I'm not an architect or anything like that. But compared to what I thought, wow, I mean, I can learn, I can practice. Yeah, it's really interesting to see that.
So what you're saying is that when we say I am this or I'm not this, we automatically stop ourselves from even trying to do that thing or be that thing that we say that we're not or that we are.
Mm.
So if I say I'm stupid, that means I don't even try to learn something new because, yeah, I've given myself that label.
Yeah,
Or somebody else has given me the label
mm.
and I've taken it on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so.
And we carry these things with us throughout life without even realizing we're doing it. Because we've just internalized all of these things that people have said about us or told us that we are or we're not. And we don't question it.
Yeah, yeah, you just believe it.
Yeah, we just think that it's true.
Mm.
And if it's true, then you will, if something is true, then you don't question it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think in conversations, you see this with people, and maybe even for yourself. Somebody will say something, you'll compliment somebody, you'll say, oh, that's a beautiful drawing, and they'll go, oh no, I can't draw. Or you
Yeah.
go, this food tastes amazing, and oh no, I'm not a good cook, I just think I threw it. And immediately they're saying they can't do something, or they dismiss uh, any kind of evidence to the contrary to what they've been telling themselves.
Yeah. Well, I think that has got a lot to do with self-worth. Um, I know because I've been there, so that's why I'm saying it. And you just don't believe what, people tell you. You think, oh, they're just being nice, or
Mm-hmm.
it's just a polite thing to say. So you never take it really in when they pay you a compliment. Mm.
So I think that I mentioned last time I was told by my dad that I'd never be able to work with my hands because I was so clumsy uh, and so every time I came to doing anything with my hands, whether that be putting a tire on a wheel or putting IKEA furniture together, I would have this voice telling me, you can't do this. You're going to make mistakes. If you make mistakes, that'll just, and as soon as you make a mistake, even a small mistake, it just proves to you
Mhm.
what was said was true. And then you don't even try or
Yeah,
you get somebody else to do something. Uh, yeah. And we collect evidence that proves the truth of what we were saying. And yeah, so we're talking about that, we believe things to be true unquestioningly. And the trick is to find evidence against our belief about
yeah,
ourselves. And
yeah,
then just to say, this part isn't true. So the other part with labeling is that we then generalize the label. So somebody may not be very good at exams and they say, I'm stupid. And so that label then is nothing to do with an inability to do an exam at a particular time, but then it's generalized to their whole being and who they are.
mm, yeah,
And so the label isn't just about, I'm not very good with exams, and there may be a whole host of reasons why somebody's not very good at exams, to I'm just not a very good person generally. You know, oh gosh, how do we do that?
Yes, it's so true. It's so true. You believe one thing and you you apply it not in just that thing, you apply it for all over yourself in your life everywhere in some way. Mm.
So I think one of the ways of checking something is to be very specific and to ask, how do you know? How do you know this to be true? What is the evidence that you have for it to be true? There must be some evidence for you to believe it.
Mm.
And then when you collect the evidence, you can then say, oh yeah, specifically, you failed 3 exams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you failed 3 exams. Yes, you did. Did you get every question wrong? Or did you get some of them right? Well, if you got some of them right, it must mean that you know something. And just because you got something wrong in the past doesn't mean that you can't correct it and get it right in the future.
Yeah.
So we can deal with specifics, but we can't deal with generalizations. And so what I found with myself and with my clients is that I can dig down into being very specific about anything that they say about themselves. And then we can look for times when they passed an exam. So did you fail every exam you took? Well, no, I passed the one on engineering. Fantastic. So maybe that means that you're not very good at English, but with engineering, you're a genius. It could be. And so then we can start to balance things and get a better perspective of what we can and can't do, or what we're better at and what we're not so good at.
Mm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. We don't really, I mean, if we're not used to it, we don't really examine our beliefs. We just take them for granted, like it's the pure truth, and that's it. But many times our beliefs are, or even our thoughts of ourselves are lies, but it could be things that we repeated to ourselves so many times that they've become a belief. And we just take it for granted. That's the way it is. But it's not, because you can always change your beliefs, your thoughts, your actions. So, yeah, and action is very important to build that data, start changing the past. So obviously you need to collect proof for yourself to believe it.
So we've talked quite a bit about all the negative things that we say to ourselves. I think the opposite can be true. I think we can give ourselves labels which make us bigger and better than we really are. So you could say, I'm a genius at this. Before I say what I think, do you think that might be problematic?
Problematic, saying that you're a genius.
Mm.
No, I've said it to myself many times. I mean, when, an idea came to me, or like a very quick solution, or something creative, I was like, wow, I'm a genius. And that, boost your confidence, and you give yourself a compliment and a bit of self-love. So why should it be a problem? I mean, it's a problem if you sort of, but that's a whole other thing, if you tend to be a bit narcissistic. That's a different thing. But for the rest, no, I think it's good to pay yourself compliments, and actually, because we tend to focus mostly on the negative things that happen, negative things that we do, negative things, this, that, and the other. It's just our brain by default goes to the negative, right? So you have to retrain it and see also the positive and the things that you accomplished during the day, what you're grateful for, and the progress you're making, instead of thinking, oh, but I'm not where I want to be. Yeah, but look how far you have come since, I don't know, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, whatever. That's much more encouraging than looking of, oh yeah, but I still have to go that way.
I think what you're saying is really valuable, is that we need to feed ourselves positive affirmations. We need to remind ourselves when we do things right and to build on that. And I think it can be problematic if we make the same mistakes about the things we do well as the things we don't do well. So if we overgeneralize, for example, saying, because I did one thing well, or I had a great idea, it means I'm a genius. Because if you think you're a genius at anything, I think it prevents you learning.
Hey everyone, before we get back to our chat, I wanted to give you a quick shout out to where you can find us, as well as more resources and articles. You can find out more about Gary at www.thinkwellnow.net, and you can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Anna Amoroso. We will include all the links in the video description below. Please consider liking and subscribing to this channel to help us in reaching more people who might value this type of content, and click the bell to get news of our latest podcast. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
So if you've got, I'm a genius at maths, and somebody comes up with another idea, if you think you're already a genius, what have you got to learn? Why would you listen to anybody else? Why would you take what they're saying on board? And I've met people like that. Sorry, you were going to say something, Anna.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's a different aspect though. Because when I say I'm a genius, I mean, wow, to myself, that was smart. That was smart. So that's a great solution. I'm not thinking, wow, I'm a genius, so let's say I can retire and go whatever. I'm the most genius on earth and I don't need to learn anymore. No, it doesn't mean that. It just means in that moment I'm happy with myself. That's it. But I know that I want to learn. I want to always improve and grow. And I will never get to a point where I can say, okay, I know everything. That's it. I don't need to learn anymore from life or from people. That will never happen.
And that's what I understood you to be saying. But not everybody is like you. And I think we learn this also from childhood. So when a child does something well, often parents, or I've heard parents say, "Oh, you're wonderful! Look at that! Isn't that aren't you great? Oh, that you've got such a talent." Well, actually, that's not very useful to the child.
Why not?
Because if you say you've got a talent for something, it means you don't have to try. it means it's just innate. And if you say you're wonderful, it also means that you don't need to try very much. But if you're very specific with the child, saying, for example, I can see you've worked really hard at doing that piece of work. Look at the results. Oh, look at that. I see you've tried hard at doing the maths and you've got all these good results. That way the child links their hard work with the results.
Yeah.
So again, so it's very specifically feeding the child. So the child is then linking their self-worth to something that they can do and not just being wonderful. So our ability and our sense of worth are two different things. And so if we want to build up people's sense of being valuable in terms of what they can do, I think we need to be very specific. So in the same way, I wouldn't say, if you've made a mistake at work, I wouldn't say, you're a stupid person. I would say, you did this piece of work in this way, that's a faulty piece of work. And I'm linking to a particular behavior aspect. It's the same when we do things right as well. If we point out the behavior, you can build on that. If you don't point out the behavior, what have you got to build on?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. For example, I think of, when maybe your parents growing up, they don't know any better and say, oh, you're a bad boy or you're a bad girl. You take that on as you. So instead of them explaining, maybe what the behavior
yes,
that you did caused, like the consequences or whatever, so that you can understand that, okay, I'm not totally bad. It's just that thing that I did that I can change, improve.
yes.
Or,
That's how I was brought up. I was either good or bad.
yeah.
Well, that wasn't really very much use to me. In fact, it probably meant I was screwed up for quite a long time. My parents didn't know that that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
And I probably made some similar mistakes with my own kids.
We all do.
Yeah. But now that we know these things, we can start to change how we use language, and language and how we use it is really important.
To others and to ourselves as well.
To others as well. There was some experiments done in the 60s and 70s around assigning labels to groups of people. And of course, we still do that now.
Oh, yeah.
You think about the world around the world and how we label particular groups of people, and then what that does to perceptions and how we treat them. And I think we can think about migrants, for example, or people of color. And there are certain ways that they are being labeled that has dramatic consequences. Yeah. I don't want to concentrate on that at the moment, but I want to think about the experiments. So the famous, perhaps the most famous, or certainly one of them, experiments was the Stanford Prison Experiment. Are you aware of this? So a psychologist called, I think his name was Zimbardo, can't remember his first name. He conducted an experiment in Stanford University, and he randomly assigned the people students who volunteered for this experiment. Some of them were assigned as prison officers, and some of them were assigned as inmates. And the experiment was to run for 2 weeks. And they had these mock-ups of prison cells in the university in a closed-off area in the university building. And said, okay, go ahead. You're the prison officers, you're the prisoners. Be those people.
Mhm.
They all knew that it wasn't real, and they all knew that they were playing a part. What they weren't allowed to do was physically hurt each other. I think that was the only rule. They had to stop the experiment after 6 days. And there was even pressure to close it before the 6 days, because the prison officers treated the prisoners with so terribly that they couldn't go on. They were giving them punishments, they were depriving them of food, they were making them do outrageous exercises. It was abusive. The prisoners were suffering psychological effects because of it. And it was simply because they were given labels. Mm. And so the prison officers were given the label prison officer. And so they had this idea in their head what a prison officer would be like. Mm. And so they acted like a prison officer. Whether they did in real, outside of that or not, didn't make any difference. The same with prisoners. They acted as they thought prisoners would act. And so the labels that were assigned had an impact on how the person behaved.
Yes.
And how the person behaved and how they perceived other people.
Mm. Yeah, wow. That's very impressive, isn't it? That just by adopting a label, your behavior can change so much. And in fact, talking about experiments, I remember, Carol Dweck. She talks about the growth mindset and the fixed mindset, and she talks about these kids in, I think it was elementary school, and they take all the kids that had really low scores, and the ones that they were the most clever, let's say, the ones that got all A's, and I think what they did was, it was something about blue eyes and dark eyes, and they said all the kids with blue eyes are the most intelligent, and the other ones, they're not so good. So they divided these groups, and it was like amazing, because the kids with the blue eyes, I think it was like this, I can't remember exactly, but it was, you are the good guys, but they were not. So they were the ones that had the lowest of scores in school. But they told them, you are clever because you got blue eyes, And in a year, they made so much progress that they became really good. Whether the other group was told the opposite, you have dark eyes, so you're not very intelligent or whatever, and they got so much worse. Okay.
I think there were two experiments that you're talking about. I think one was the blue-eye, brown-eye experiment, and the other one is the, I think they called it the Pygmalion effect experiment. So I think the blue-eye, brown-eye experiment was that, obviously that was very random, because the kids were told, kids with blue eyes are intelligent, superior, kids with brown eyes are stupid.
Yeah.
And then they watched how the behavior changed, and then they swapped it around and said, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. It's the kids with brown eyes that are really intelligent and the kids with blue eyes that are not. And like you say, how they treated each other changed.
Yeah.
The other experiment which you alluded to was one that went on for a year, and teachers were told. The teachers were told, this group of kids are really bright. These
Oh, yeah.
kids are going to flourish. And it didn't matter who the kids were. The teachers treated them in such a way that they expected all these kids to do well. And like you say, after a year, all of those kids did really well because of how the teacher treated them.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for reminding me that. I think I mixed them up. I put
You
the
conflated
two of
them.
them together. Yeah, it's
I think you
amazing.
created your own experiment there.
Yeah, you know, I'm creative. I can do whatever I want.
You're a genius.
I'm a genius. Yeah, but yeah, it's actually kind of impressive and also scary if you think about it. Just just by saying to someone something and they believe it, they treat you that way, or you become certain ways that you weren't before.
So, when we were, say we, I mean Europeans, were had started the slave trade, and we took black Africans from Africa to the New World, to America and to the Caribbean islands. We labeled them, but we didn't. We labeled them subhuman.
Mm.
And because we labeled the African people subhuman, it meant that we could treat them that way as well. And so that enabled the Europeans to do whatever they wanted, because they no longer had to deal with humans. And of course, if you then tell the people that you have control over that they are subhuman, that they are stupid, that they are inferior, well, guess how they will behave?
Well, that brings me to a bigger thing, like, in society and the whole system, the government, the schools, sometimes you just believe there as well. You just believe, okay, you grow up, you go to school, you have to go to college, you have to go to university, then you get yourself a job, and then you get married, you have kids, maybe a dog, you retire, and that's it. That's your life.
Ah, yes, I guess that's a wider label, isn't it? It's linked to expectations. Let me bring it back to labels. I just use the label there. I use the word conspiracy theorist. And as soon as I use that label, I dismiss anything that somebody else has got to say. And that, well, for me, it may be true, but how then do I treat the conspiracy theorist? If I dismiss them totally and think all conspiracy theorists have been brainwashed or are idiots or don't know what they're talking about, that stops me engaging with them. If I can get beyond the label and say, explain to me what you mean. How do you come to that conclusion? What would make you think differently? What would be the evidence that you would need? Then maybe we can have a conversation. It may be that they're unmovable. That's how we get families who are split with anything. So after COVID, we had families who were split, those of people who had vaccines, who were vaccinated, and those who didn't. In America now, there are families split between Republicans and Democrats, and they've labeled each other. And they've not just said you're a Democrat, you're a Republican. They label each other with some terrible things. So if you think that, then you're an idiot. If you think that, then you're brainwashed. Well, how does that help dialogue at all? How does that help us to understand?
You need to be open and curious and try to understand where someone might be telling the truth or not, like being objective. Because if you believe strongly one thing and you are close to everything else around you, you will always tend to find the proof that you are right.
Yes, we don't like to be wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So you obviously will, even when you're maybe doing research or whatever, if you have a strong belief, you will go and look for people that agree with you. You will not go to the other people and say, let's see if they have a point here somewhere, or if I can learn something different, you know?
So if somebody came to you in your coaching capacity and they had some very strong beliefs, how would you go about coaching them? If they had very strong beliefs about that, they believed that really that a member of their family was an idiot, that they were the only ones with the truth. What kind of things would you say to them?
It's like, I think awareness is really important. So, asking question and trying to understand their beliefs and trying to understand, okay, where does this come from? Is it your belief? Is it because someone else said so and you believed it? Yeah, I don't know. I think awareness and going deeper with that, but that's what comes up at the moment. What would be your solution?
I think similar to what you said, I would want to understand the person. And our job as a coach, it isn't to argue with the person.
Yeah.
So I think if people come to us with very strong beliefs, we're not there to correct them.
Exactly, just to make them reflect on it. So, for example, okay, is this belief serving you or not serving you? Is this belief affecting your relationship or your life? Or would you like it to be different? Yeah, questions are magic, but you just need to ask questions in the moment.
Yeah, so if people come to us and they're worried that we're going to judge them, well, you know what? That's part of our remit, isn't it? Our remit is not to judge, even if they're judging themselves. Even if they've labeled themselves, we're not doing that.
Yes, actually, we reflect to them. It seems like you are judging yourself, harshly or whatever.
Anna, thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much, Gary. It was fun.
Dance for me. Dance, 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 and dance for me. Dance for me. Dance, 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 dance for me. Pull up, I got 5 wishes on the